Greetings and peace. I would like to start this with Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, in the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Most Merciful, and Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Peace be with you and yours. Today's presentation, I would like to talk about the Islamic influence on the Society of Jesus, known as the Jesuits. I hope you enjoy this, and I represent myself only. This presentation is created for educational, fair use, nonprofit, and intellectual exploration purposes. It does not endorse, promote, or encourage adherence to any institution, ideology, or religious order discussed within its content. It aims to critically examine historical narratives, extract beneficial insights, and encourage viewers to reflect deeply on a spiritual, ethical, and societal development in a balanced and thoughtful manner. The idea that the Jesuits were influenced by Islamic Sufism originates from polemical writings in 19th century Europe, particularly those seeking to discredit religious institutions through association. These claims were often shaped more by political agendas and ideological conflicts than by genuine scholarly investigation or engagement with primary sources. The Society of Jesus, founded in the 16th century by Ignatius of Loyola, emerged during a time of intense religious upheaval in Europe, known as the Counter-Reformation. It was structured with discipline, hierarchy, and a strong missionary zeal, aiming to defend and expand Catholic influence across the world. Prior to and during the formation of the Jesuits, Islamic civilization had already influenced vast regions including Spain, North Africa, and parts of Europe through knowledge, philosophy, and spirituality, especially the Moorish presence in Spain and Al-Andalus, and how those teachings and presences brought Europe from out of darkness into the light and included the Renaissance. This influence was not always direct, but existed through cultural diffusion, translation movements, and shared intellectual environments. Sufism represents the inner spiritual dimension of Islam, focused on purification of the heart, remembrance of God, and direct experiential knowledge of the divine. It is not a separate sect, but an integrated dimension of Islamic life, deeply rooted in Quranic teachings and the example of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Western critiques historically mischaracterized Sufism as irrational or mystical excess, often labeling its practices as psychological disturbances rather than disciplined spiritual exercises. Such misunderstandings reflect a broader inability to grasp metaphysical traditions outside of a purely materialistic or institutional framework. Spain, particularly Al-Andalus, served as a bridge between Islamic and Christian civilizations, facilitating the exchange of ideas in philosophy, science, and spirituality. Even after the Reconquista in 1492, traces of this intellectual heritage persisted in subtle and indirect ways within European thought, and it influenced all of the societies that we see today. Following the fall of Granada, Muslims in Spain faced severe persecution, forced conversions, and cultural erasure under the Inquisition. This oppressive environment makes direct transmission of Islamic teachings to emerging Christian orders highly improbable. Ignatius of Loyola lived in a Spain deeply marked by religious control and suspicion, where deviation from orthodoxy could result in imprisonment or worse. His own encounters with the Inquisition highlights the rigid boundaries within which he operated. While direct borrowing lacks evidence, indirect influence through the broader intellectual climate remains plausible at that time in Spain, right? This reflects how civilizations absorb and reinterpret ideas over time without explicit acknowledgement. Spiritual disciplines such as meditation, retreat, and self-discipline appear across many traditions, including Christianity, Islam, and others. These similarities often arise from universal human quests for meaning rather than direct imitation. Both Sufi movements and Jesuit missions have historically engaged with political realities, often challenging dominant powers. This intersection of spirituality and governance has led to both influence and persecution. European colonial powers often viewed Islamic spiritual movements as threats due to their role in resistance and cultural preservation. Sufi leaders in North Africa and beyond played key roles in anti colonial struggles. One example I can give you is Sheikh Amadou Bamba in Senegal, where he was able to resist through peaceful means the French, right? Before Gandhi or before Martin Luther King Jr. But in the school system, they never teach us about Sheikh Amadou Bamba and how he was able to basically help Senegal gain its independence through peaceful means. The first Jesuit Pope Francis has taken a notably more open and conciliatory approach towards Islam, emphasizing dialogue and mutual respect. His stance reflects a shift from confrontation to coexistence, highlighting the potential for spiritual traditions to find common ethical ground. And I believe he also had a service on the Vatican, an interfaith service, and how there was even a prayer area for Muslims. And I've seen this with the Jesuits, where they also come to many of the mosques and Islamic communities and engage with the leaders. And I can appreciate that, coming together for a common cause and a common ground to find that truth and justice in society, especially the world that we are dealing with today. And even the current Pope that we have, he's doing good work also in terms of making sure that those that are using the name of Christ to fight these so-called crusades in the Middle East are being held accountable. But yeah, I think there's still a lot of work that needs to be done, especially from the past sins of the Catholic Church. But I believe the current leaders, this one currently and the one before him, had the right idea as we move forward. Modern interfaith efforts seek to bridge divides between the communities, the Muslims and the Christians, through shared values such as compassion, justice, and mercy. These efforts challenge historical narratives of conflict and open pathways for collaboration. Sufi teachings emphasize humility, sincerity, discipline, and constant remembrance of God as foundations for ethical living. These principles offer tools to navigate modern crises of identity, materialism, and moral confusion. The debate over influence reveals how knowledge is often politicized and shaped by power structures. Recognizing this allows individuals to critically engage with historical narratives rather than passively accepting them. Instead of asking who copied whom in terms of what influenced what, a more meaningful question is how different traditions contribute to a shared human search for truth. This perspective moves beyond competition towards a more holistic understanding of the divine. And I think that's where we're at right now, right? And whether it's the Israel situation, where if you look at before 1948, the indigenous Christians, Jews, and Muslims of that land were peacefully coexisting and living with each other and loving each other and protecting each other's holy spaces. And now look at it, right? Whether it's the Muslims or the Christians, even with the Holy Sepulchre, that's not how it should be. We got to do something about this. And even Al-Andalus, right? Whether it's the Gematria system from Abjad, Kabbalah, which was developed under the Sufi teachers over there. There's so much we can do when we are on the same page, coexisting and helping humanity and helping each other through knowledge and charity. Again, to reiterate today's message, in a time of global tension and misunderstanding, returning to authentic knowledge and spiritual discipline is essential. This includes rejecting stereotypes and engaging with traditions on their own terms. The claim of direct Islamic origin of the Jesuits remains unproven, but the discussion reveals deeper truths about the cultural impact and exchange and impression and intellectual history, especially on Ignatius of Loyola, right, in 16th century Spain, at that time where that influence of Islam was there in Spain. So whatever remnant was there in the Reconquista before and after, it definitely was passed on into those teachings of the Jesuit order, knowingly and unknowingly. But this discussion that we're having here, it ultimately calls for humility, critical thinking, and respect for the richness of all spiritual traditions. This presentation is based on the article on the Muslim origin of the Jesuits by Imam Mahmoud Hussein, which was sent to me by Brother Pepe Badalamenti in Argentina. It's written in Spanish from a Shia mosque in Argentina, right? So the critical analysis of that article, along with broader historical and intellectual context, is based on this conversation we're having here today. And it's all for the purpose of entertainment and education purposes. Thank you for watching. If any questions or comments, please email me at salmansheikh911@gmail.com. And of course, all my videos are for the purpose of fair use, for the purpose of education, entertainment, and free speech purposes. Thank you so much. All rights reserved.